Good afternoon. Welcome to the DPod from the DPad. My name is Nick. I'm your host for this episode 43 of the DPod. Welcome to our lovely afternoon videocast. Sharon, I've had way too much sugar.
Sugar?
Sugar.
You got sugar? You tell me you got sugar? Can I have some sugar?
Dude,
I have enough sugar.
This is going to be the best podcast ever because we're all high on sugar. And we also have... God damn it, who's with us? Nick is with us. Hi,
Yes.
Nick.
Hello.
And
I'm not high on sugar, but I have had some coffee.
You're
Ooh,
not high on
caffeine.
sugar. You're not high on sugar? Well, that ruins everything.
No, caffeine is good.
Okay.
I mean, you and I don't drink coffee, so that's,
Yeah. And
sugar is a good replacement.
Jeremy is also with us. Hi, Jeremy.
I haven't had anything to eat, so
Oh no!
this could be a good podcast.
You're
See.
fading away.
That's the opposite of everything that we just talked about.
This
sorry.
podcast is going to be really horrible about halfway through as we all start falling
Okay.
asleep.
After my sugar high dies, I'm going to go get some heroin.
Oh God, no!
And that should take care of it.
That's not a. That's
Is that a downer?
That's a. Pretty sure that's a downer.
Oh, oops!
Sugar a gateway drug to heroin now?
It's a hell of a
Like you
drug.
want some like speed or cocaine.
Yeah,
something.
and get some crack.
Yeah.
Go down to the corner and buy some crack. Y'all want some crack?
No thanks.
All right. This
What's
podcast
the,
is already going swimmingly. We're talking about hard drugs.
What's the fake drug in Max Payne?
I have no idea.
Shoot, Valkyr is the name of the company that makes
But,
it.
Maybe it's
I
called
just watched
Shoot.
that crappy movie the other day, so I forgot though.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Oh.
I did not
Actually,
watch
just-
that.
Recently beat the first Max Payne for the first time ever.
How does it hold up?
The dialogue is still fantastic in its cheesy, awesome noirness. The end of that game is fucked.
Man,
it gets really stupid.
at the time, that game was pretty exciting. At the time.
Yeah.
It's because of bullet time. Everyone
Yeah.
loves bullet time. Now it's a trope.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Unfortunately, Max Payne is not a game that we've been playing this week. I don't
Nope.
think. No? No?
Sorry
Can
for
I- can I get a
derailing.
confirmed-
Jeremy's been watching the movie, so
Yeah, okay. All right. So,
video game movies are always great.
God, video game movies, what the fuck?
I like some of the bad ones though.
Did you guys hear they're doing a Tomb Raider reboot?
Movie?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I did hear
Yep.
that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they've
why that
rebooted
is
the game, so
Great.
I mean-
I look forward to seeing the many deaths of Lara Croft in the next movie. I'm looking forward to seeing how they pull that off.
That definitely has to be rated R. Has to be.
I would hope so. Yeah. So, guys, let's talk about some video games. Can I
Video
get some,
games.
Can I get some what on video games?
What?
What? So, guys, video games. Not a whole lot came out. I know none of us, for whatever reason, have played The Last of Us. Like, none of us have?
I don't
Really?
think so.
I'm too
Nope.
cheap to buy it.
Yeah, me too,
And
honestly.
it's not on PC.
Yeah.
Or is it? No,
do,
it's not.
I do really want to play it because I hear nothing but good things.
Really?
But I don't want to drop $60 right now,
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
especially this late in.
Well, the good thing is I haven't been spoiled on it yet. Nobody's really given me any spoilers about the game,
Yeah.
so I figure if I can kind of avoid that till it drops in price, then I might snag it up and play it.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
I mean it's not on PC, but I have my ways of obtaining consoles. So,
Maybe go to your local used game retailer and buy a copy for $55.
oh.
Save that Abe Lincoln.
I don't
and
know.
then
It just
use it to buy crack on the corner.
$5 is Abe. That's what
See
five.
how I
Decent.
just brought that full circle?
Yeah.
maybe some cheap crack. Actually, I don't
Yeah.
really know much about the prices of crack cocaine these days, but
I will not assume to know either. So yeah.
I say these days as if I knew it.
Back in the olden days. When
Yeah,
I was,
back in the
you know,
80s.
Back
I
when
was
we got
10.
an 8-ball every week. And
What? I don't even know what that means.
so video games. Why don't we start with Jeremy because he was late.
Oh.
Oh god, I'm being punished.
Yes.
Calling him out.
So, Jeremy, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I'm always playing the Dota, but I don't really want to talk about it because I don't want to talk about it. It's boring.
we might talk about that before
Oh,
this
yeah,
podcast is over.
we'll move.
Teaser.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but I decided to just, since I haven't been giving my Humble Bundle purchase much love, as aside from Intrusion 2, which I talked about last time.
Yeah, I still haven't played that, but I still want to. Because the wolf riding mechanic.
Wolf physics.
Yeah, so I haven't been back to that game, by the way, so I don't know. You're going to have to tell me how that turns out. But I decided to pick up and play Oil Rush.
That was another one. Was that one added later?
Yeah, that was
the
additional 4-pack they added on later. I didn't really, I went in blind. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was sort of a strategy game, but I guess if you can imagine Waterworld, the movie,
Yeah.
and
Do I have to?
hey, I kind of like that movie, okay? Anyway, so take that setting and pretty much smash it with the mechanics of a StarCraft or Warcraft game.
It does kind of look like StarCraft a little bit.
Yeah, so it's set on the open water. Everything in the world is sort of sunken. So the only thing that survives are these floating platforms and these oil rigs. And the oil is pretty much the only thing that can sort of power everything above the water.
Dude,
so
this is Mad Max.
It's a main resource, and
I'll drive that tanker.
So you fight over it, and that's pretty much your resources, so to speak, for when you're playing each level is oil rigs. And it works a little bit differently from StarCraft, because in StarCraft and in most RTSs you're actually able to select your units and tell them where to go. You'd select 2 or 3 and send them over here, or 2 or 3 and send them over there. But in this game you can't actually select your units. So the way you move them is each platform has a set amount of units it can generate over time. So every set time it'll pump out a new unit. Mm-hmm. And the way you send your unit somewhere is you click on the destination, and then you can select if you want to send 25%, 50%, or 100% of your army.
So they kind of generalize everything a little
So
bit.
yeah, it's a little more structured, as far as the constraints. So you're not actually able to just mass up 1 million units and go bomb some guy.
I was gonna say I would have loved to see what does a Zerg rush look like with just little boats.
Yeah. I mean, it gets to that point because you can actually so if you have multiple platforms, you can send one army to a certain platform and then send 100% of the army there somewhere. So you can't actually mass your units. It's not as easy because there's travel time between the points where you can't actually select your units and tell them to go back. They have to make their destination before they can turn around. So it's a little bit more strategy in that sense, because you have to you don't want to send your entire army somewhere because you have to defend your base. Gotcha. And it's not as easy to get your units back if you need to defend. So I played a little bit of it. It's different. I can't say that I like the ability not to select my units, because I'm so keen to playing RTSs that let me do that.
Pretty much, which is pretty much every RTS.
Yeah. So I mean, in that sense, it's different for me, and it was a little bit harder to get used to. But I really think that the graphics are pretty good for an RTS. Lighting is really well done, and I don't know. I like the setting. Like I said, I like Waterworld, so I like this setting.
So, does this still adhere to things like skill trees, where you're building different units over a period of time, or resource management, or anything the usual parts of any decent RTS?
So in the mission I played, there was the objective was to obtain 500 barrels of crude oil, but like you're constantly getting attacked by enemies, so you can click on the platforms and you can build like sentry turrets, like machine gun turrets or rocket turrets to defend the platform when your army's not there. But everything you build takes oil, so without oil you can't really do anything. So it's sort of like, I don't know, I guess I could compare it to StarCraft, where you have to mine resources and you have to use those resources to build new stuff. I mean, it's typical RTS standards.
Yeah.
It's just sort of done in a different way, because you're not building like an entire base, so to speak. You're just upgrading the base and making the defenses stronger, I guess.
So you have like one base of operations that does everything.
Yeah, and then you can obtain more platforms. Like I didn't get too deep into it, so I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming that once you take more platforms, you can build better units and so on. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's a little different with like there's also skill trees. So as you gain experience, like every time you kill a unit, you gain experience. So every time you do that, you can have access to a tree where like you can get perks that you can use. So for instance, I had a radar, so whenever it was off cooldown, I could use it and it would scan an area and I could see how many enemies were there and sort of what was going on in the area. And then I think there was like there's a skill where you could have like a boost to your unit's movement speed. Like, so you get extra skills to sort of help with your army and help manage everything a little bit better. So you're not really doing everything out of just your platform. So it was interesting in that sense, because I've never really seen a game with skill trees. So sort of like an RTS.
I mean, it does,
MMO.
It does
I don't
look
know.
nice. Like I'll give you that. I mean, the game, especially for this was in the Humble Bundle, and it looks pretty nice.
Yeah, surprisingly, it wasn't a large download. I think it was like maybe 800 megabytes, and like there's games in the Humble Bundle that are over a gig.
Realistic
Steam.
water graphics. Game really makes me want to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I guess the water setting does get kind of overwhelming, because it's like it's few and far between like your bases, and so when you click your units to go somewhere, then you have to watch them ride through the water for the next minute or whatever. It's sort of tiring. But another feature that was pretty cool was if you hover over like your units and hit F, you'll actually like drop down into like a cinematic view, and you'll get to like watch that unit do its fighting. So you can sort of like, I don't know, make it like movie-esque and have like cinematic fights between your boats and stuff. If you're into that, I guess. I don't really know the purpose of it, game-wise, because I mean, you don't get to control your units. It's just whoever has more units that does more damage kind of wins the fight.
Are
So
there any sharks in this game?
not that I have seen yet.
Oh.
I'm assuming there has to be. I mean, it's all water, but I mean, maybe that's like a skill up. You can like launch like a shark attack or something.
Launch shark missiles that fly through the
Yeah.
air. I think
So
I would like to play that game, that particular game, in which you are able to launch sharks through the air at your opponent.
So when do you pee into a little mechanical device?
On your
then-
raft.
Yeah,
do
on
you,
your
do you
raft.
get
and
to
then-
steal a lime tree? That was the movie. I'm not thinking of the right movie, right? There's like a little lime plant that Kevin Costner had.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I remembered that
Yeah,
closely.
yeah.
We are renting water.
Oh
World.
no. What have I done?
Congratulations, Sharon. You just picked
The only
tonight's
things I
movie.
remember from that are like I said, him peeing into a thing and then drinking it, and then his gill ankles.
We might be getting a little off topic. So yeah, Oil Rush looks pretty decent actually.
Yeah, especially for Humble Bundle project.
Yeah.
Which I hate to say that, especially for, but I guess what I really mean is especially for the price that you probably paid.
If you got the Humble Bundle, I would definitely check it out. It also has a multiplayer mode. I don't know how that would work out. I mean, I'm assuming it's just kind of back and forth action because of certain allowances of units, but it's pretty well done, like you said, for a humble bundle game. I was really impressed by just the interface and the graphics in general. So I would check it out if I were you.
Cool. Any other comments? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody? Oh, really? We're good?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. Cool. Anything else, Jeremy?
Well, I'm patiently awaiting this Dota teaser.
Because he's going to jump in on that.
You want to go to that next, then?
No, it's up to you.
All right.
Up to Nick.
Nick? How
Sure.
about you bring it full
talk
circle
about
for the
scene,
second
but
time already this podcast.
I mean, so what?
Dota. So did you guys talk about Dota on this podcast in the past?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Probably not in an organized fashion.
No.
Yeah.
So I recently started playing Dota 2 because a couple of my favorite internet game personalities started really getting into it, and then I realized that I was in the beta.
I think
somehow.
everybody's in the beta.
Yeah, probably.
Oh,
It's
just
still-
on that note, I want to give some keys away. So keep your eyes on Twitter if you're listening to us, because I have about 12.
12?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Start
go ahead.
listing them now.
Well, are you going to do it on the Twitter account?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it on Twitter. I'll
On
give
the-
them to you, and you can just.
Is there a Twitter account like the DPod Twitter account or
Yeah,
your
yeah,
own
here,
or
the DPod. The
Okay.
DPod.
so
Yes.
at from the DPad?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Anyway, go on, Nick. Sorry.
It's cool. So I only recently started playing this. I played League of Legends a little bit in the past when League of Legends was still fairly new, so it must have been at least a few years ago. And I thought it was okay. I couldn't get into it, but for whatever reason, Dota 2 has gripped my brain with a horrible fever grip thing that's bad and grippy. I really like this game. And I've only actually been playing, I've got like 60 hours into it already over the last like week and a half. And
That's a lot of hours for a week and a
yeah.
half.
And I've only played bot matches, actually.
Aw.
Oh man,
Yet to jump in.
your cherry has
online.
not been popped.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rude awakening when you hit the online scene. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of people saying that the stuff that they're doing, that Valve is doing with the community stuff, has actually already started helping.
Like what kind of stuff? Can you elaborate?
Well, yeah. So they have some pretty advanced, like reporting tools in the game. You can both report players for being jerks for multiple, on like a whole strata of reasons. Like you can report them for bad language, for being abusive, for not being team players. I don't remember all the things you can report on, but it's good that it's granular, and when you get reported, your punishment is that you are put into a lower tier of matchmaking.
Oh, see, that means I can also report somebody for being a noob.
Yeah. See, I was just thinking that.
You only get 2 reports a month.
Oh,
A week.
okay.
So there,
It's
is it a week?
I think it's
Okay.
a week. Yeah.
Well, you get a very limited amount of reports, so it's a big deal to use them.
Right. You only want to use your bad reports on the worst of the worst, is basically
Right.
what you're saying.
But those reports are also tempered against, they also have commendations, which is really cool, is that you can actually commend people for being friendly, for being helpful, for being forgiving.
That's one of the things about League of Legends that I really liked, because when I first started, people would say, good job, or you got extra social points for being a team player, and that's the kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, at least now I know what I'm doing correct, not just what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, well, but not only does that have, maybe this is true for League also, but not only does that have an effect on just your confidence level playing the game, but it ties into the reporting stuff too. If you're a highly commended player, they'll take that into account when you get a report on you. So, also, it's just really cool that there's a way to be positive for the community and not just negative.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think that helps a lot, especially in League. If you wanted to report the people who are being annoying, you'd have to pretty much report everybody. So
yeah,
it's just I agree with you. I think it helps to not just in video games, but in general in life situations. We always focus on the negative, but when you start focusing on the positive, you can kind of move the needle a little bit more in the right direction. Say, hey, look, we got all these people who are awful in our game, but then look at all these people who are doing it correctly. It reflects better on your game.
And I think it's smart too, because they really do focus both the reporting and the commendations on being a good member of the community and not being bad or good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Is your positive feedback as limited as the negative one?
No.
You have more, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's more positive than negative.
That's good.
You can commend people for more things than you can report them for, I believe.
And I'll just throw this out there. There is when you get penalized for being a bad team player, intentionally killing yourself or whatever, that will put you in the low priority. But say somebody reports you for communication, being offensive, either typing or talking, it will actually take away your privileges to type or talk,
nice.
or draw on the map for 24 hours. But every time you get a communication report, it stacks. So the next offense will be 48, the next offense will be 72. So I just recently served 196 hours because I get really mad in that game. And
ridiculous.
So
Jeremy.
So
hilarious.
You're the person making me afraid to jump into.
No. I don't get mad at people. I don't get mad at people. Doing stupid stuff. It's more or less the people that don't speak English, and I'm telling them to do something, and they just, intentionally do the other thing. So I yell at them, and they report me. So sometimes you can't help it. I have a temper. Yes.
109. How many days is that? 2 weeks.
I think I got banned on Sunday or Thursday, and I couldn't talk until the following Sunday.
Wow.
Now that's real time, right? That's not game time.
No, that's real time. No, not game time. No, I'd still be serving it if that were true.
So you can also just not play for a day or two.
Yeah. Just take a break, a breather.
Well, anyways, I've actually heard stories that the Dota 2 tools so far have actually had some good brain.
Well,
good. It has caused good things.
I could be a testament to that. I after serving that ban, I was like, all right, I'm gonna cool it a little bit.
Yeah.
It does have positive repercussions.
I heard a story of someone else that had been put in the lower priority and in the asshole game queue basically, and he found that everyone in there was even more polite.
Oh, because they're trying to get out.
Because they're trying to get out. They think, I don't know. They think that by being polite they'll get out of there faster, I guess, which doesn't probably doesn't actually work, but hey, at least it's made them think about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, but as far as the game itself goes, I haven't played a whole ton of MOBAs. I played both Monday Night Combat and Super Monday Night Combat a bit off and on, and those are like action MOBAs.
Right.
They're third-person shooters, and I always really liked those, but I just never super got into them. And like I said, I played League probably for 10, 15 hours. Maybe not that much. And I thought it was good. I could just never get into it. And I actually remember playing the original Dota at LAN parties and stuff back in the day.
Right.
But for whatever reason, like against everything, I am super into this game right now.
Okay,
like,
so here's a loaded question.
Okay.
When are you going to start playing with people?
Once I have finished my task of playing every hero in the game against bots.
Because I'm really curious as to if you feel... I'm sure you will, because I'm the optimist. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But I'm curious to see how you play after you start jumping in with strangers.
Right.
And see if you still feel as great, because I'm sure you will, but I always think people are going to be pleasantly surprised, because not everybody's a bad guy.
and stuff for build orders for items and for level up builds. And so you can activate one of those guides in the game, and then when you level up, it'll highlight the next ability.
Right.
At the appropriate level that guide thinks you should take. And it will also... It has an extra pane in the shop that lists all the specific items that is good for that hero, or at least that person who made that guide has deemed is good for that hero, and the order you should purchase and craft them in, and... So I think that's gone a long way, for me at least, because I can jump into any hero, bring up the highest voted guide, and just start playing right away.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can speak to that for a second. Like those, I still use some of those guides. And I would say that 90% of the time they're very effective. At least maybe not in like high end play, but where you have to kind of build your items to counter certain heroes. But those guides are really good, and I'm really glad that they added that. That was like a recent addition a couple months ago, where they started having the community be able to create guides and stuff. So I think it really helped the new people trying to come in and get into the game.
I would definitely come in and use that immediately. Like what little MOBA experience I have, the part that always trips me up is all of the item crafting. Like, I just want to go out there and kill stuff, but then there's that whole other side where it's like, oh, I should really go back and use all this money to buy items, and like my brain is not multitasking on that level when I'm playing, so I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking, all right, I gotta time this perfectly so I can kill all these guys and bring down the tower, and, do some jungling, whatever it is the terminology is. But, trying to adapt to my brain to the possibility of, okay, maybe I shouldn't do anything right now. Maybe I need to go back and buy stuff. That to me, like, on a psychological level, feels like I'm wasting time, but I know that's not true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's the guide?
So hard for me to get over that barrier.
With the guides, like, so like say a suggested item, and you have all this money, and you're like, you don't want to go back, you can just open up the store tab and right click on it, on the item, and it'll buy all the necessary parts you need to make it and put them in your stash. So when you return back to your base after you die or after you have to go back to heal, you can just pick your items up right out of the stash. And you bought them while you're out on the battlefield. So you don't have to sit at the shop and go, what does this item do? What does this item do? Like, just, you get it and you go. So it's really effective in that sense.
There's also the if you shift click on something in the store, it will add everything that you need for that item if it's a crafted thing.
Crafting made simple.
Yeah, it'll add that all to a little shopping list that you can see down if you're watching the video cast here. It's down in the bottom right of the screen, like right under the shop button there. So that's stuff that I have like earmarked for the stuff that I need to buy next. So when I have enough money to get that, I just right-click right there.
Alright, so on my
it
shopping
buys
list,
it right away.
My shopping list, I need milk, bread, eggs,
Stick of butter,
and a helmet of the Forsaken +2 to death.
Yep.
That's a pretty awesome list.
So yeah, I've been trying to figure out why I like this game, because on paper, and I've assumed for so long that I would hate all of these games. And in the past,
You're not alone.
like I said, I kind of didn't really love any of them, despite trying. I didn't really hate it. I could see how other people got into it, but I'm not an RTS guy. I in fact, straight up very much dislike RTS games because I am terrible at them. Because I can't pay attention to 10 different armies that I have strewn across the map at once. I'm really, really terrible at micro, basically, is what I'm saying. And those games, especially like StarCraft 2, there's so much to pay attention to so fast that I can't do it. I lack the both mental and physical capabilities to hang in those games.
So what is it? Actions per minute, clicks per minute, whatever that is.
Yeah,
where you like have to keep track of how many actions you're actually doing every minute.
And it's nuts. Like I can't, if I have in those games, I'm that dude that just balls up their whole army into one big thing. Click, drag, select my entire army and throw them at the enemy. At which point they realize that my base is completely unguarded and totally wipe me out.
vulnerability, go, go, go.
Yeah. But this game, because it's one unit, at the core at least, there are some characters that can summon others, and some characters that you actually end up, like there's a brood. The brood mother is the spider queen that infects enemies with eggs, and then when they die, they explode into a bunch of little baby spiders.
God, are we still
that
talking
you then
about
control?
Dota?
Yeah. But like I played her, and I expected not to like her, but she's actually still really fun because all the little spider babies you summon are that it's really simple. You don't really have to micromanage them a ton. You just sort of select all of them and then put them on a different control group than the main brood mother, and there you go. That's the most complicated the controls get, really. So the fact that there's a central point of entrance into the game goes a long way for me in this. And then the other thing is actually the pace. These games are long, which I had always assumed I would hate, but I actually really like it.
You can lose a lot of time playing these games, let me just tell you.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that.
45-minute games usually.
But, like, even when like I said, I've only been playing bot matches, but even when I've losed bot matches, I still feel like I had fun and I got something out of it, mostly because I'm going through every hero and at least learning the basics so I know what they all do, and trying to find a stable of favorites for myself, because there's a ton of different ways to like pick modes for this game that restrict what heroes you can play and what heroes you can't, and there's a lot of randoms or like draft where you get a random pool. So you can't always necessarily play your one favorite hero, so I'm trying to get up a stable of them. I don't know. I actually really love the pace, and if I lose, I don't feel like my time is wasted. If for no other reason than when I playing all these bot matches that I've been playing, there's no penalty for just ditching a game.
Yeah.
Because it's just bots. So when I play a hero for like 10-15 minutes, if I decide I don't like him, I just ditch. I don't bother finishing a game with a hero that I don't really like.
Just make sure that doesn't become a bad habit, because the second you get into a real match and you're like, well, I don't like this guy.
Well, no, I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, hopefully, I should have my stable of 10 or so heroes.
Yeah.
So you can mark a hero as favorite, and you can have 10 favorites. And I've already filled up that list. So, but yeah. So, like I was saying, the pacing actually it actually makes me feel a little bit better about it in a way, because I don't feel like I have to be like, there's pressure obviously, because you have to make sure that you're getting gold and experience faster than the enemy team. It's a major part of the game. Mm-hmm. But again, those are things that I'm used to playing a lot of RPGs. Like, those are mechanics that I'm familiar with, as opposed to the more esoteric, like, tactics and strategy of a straight up real time, more traditional real time strategy.
Maybe we should just play some Dota.
Yeah,
I've got keys.
I think I already have it, but maybe we should just play some Dota. Maybe we should just play.
I've played a couple bot matches co-op with people from me and Sharon's mutual internet gaming buddy group, and they've been super fun. Mm-hmm. Just playing chill games against bots with co-op, and the same thing applies there. Like, if playing against bots, if we're not having fun with the heroes we've chosen or whatever, if we're losing horribly, we just ditch.
Bail.
What do you say we, sometime in the very near future, we just do some Dota? We'll just stream our awfulness.
Stream our experimentation.
Yeah, and then we'll just get better, and then we'll take the internet by storm, and we'll win $1 million.
Okay.
Sounds good.
With some e-gaming.
The third international tournament, the prize money is almost up to $3 million.
Good Lord.
Cool. I'm game for that.
I wonder if my league experience will translate well to Dota.
How many hours of experience do you think I need to get in 3 million? Like 2, 3
millions?
Hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a handful of bot matches.
Why don't we keep the ball rolling for now then? Let's get back to Dota another time, because
okay.
Let's actually do this. Let's try it out, and then maybe we'll have a more communal discussion about Dota in the near future.
Yeah, I would also I would love Sharon to play it, because she has played a bunch of League, at least a lot more than I have. So I'd like to see the differences.
I'm curious
add me
about
to
it.
Steam too.
Yeah,
I'll play with you.
Jeremy, you can teach us how to get banned for $196.
Hey, come on now.
Nick, what else have you been playing?
The other game I've been playing, actually, I played both of these games basically the last 2 weeks, even though I wasn't on the podcast last week. And I super missed you guys last week.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're back.
Yay. So the other game I've been playing the last 2 weeks is Animal Crossing New Leaf.
Oh, you've been taken over by 2 drugs at once: Dota and Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
it's a cocktail of danger.
So Animal Crossing it's the new 3DS Animal Crossing, and I of course don't have any way to capture video from the thing, so I took a bunch of screenshots and I made this fancy little slideshow here.
Woohoo!
For the video stream. So if you're watching that, check that out. I stayed up way too late making that really dumb slideshow transition effect.
No star wipes. Sharon is not impressed.
So has the Has the addiction waned at all since it first came? Because when it first came out, there was so much, give me your code, let's play, to everyone. All over the place. Is it still thriving?
Well, the thing about Animal Crossing is you can't really get addicted to it the same way you can get addicted to a Dota or a Torchlight or a Diablo or something.
There's only so much you can do in a day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can always fish, but who really wants to fish for 20 hours straight or something?
Like, I love Animal Crossing. Like, I played the heck out of the DS one, but it gets to the point where it's like, all right, I really want to play more Animal Crossing, but it's 11 p.m. at night and there's nothing going on. Everyone's asleep. Now what? I guess I'll go to bed too. And then when I wake up, I'll play some Animal Crossing.
And it's also kind of funny because when everyone was like super excited over exchanging Fred codes and making plans to go to everyone's town and stuff, there was nothing to do in any of the towns. Like, everyone still had the first shop. Everyone, had like a tent or the first house in their town, and not a whole lot of villagers. But now that people have gotten a lot more, at least I have gotten a lot more into my town. Like, my shop's upgraded. I have the nicer, bigger house, and there's a ton of people. I find myself not doing a whole lot of multiplayer as much because I sort of burned out on it, I think. Because I was like leaving my DS on all the time for people to come in and visit my town and all that kind of stuff.
It's pretty sweet sunglasses you got there.
Yeah. Wait till later and you see my 3D glasses.
So, I think I don't know about Jeremy, but I know Sharon has been trying to figure out what the appeal of Animal Crossing is since I mentioned that it was awesome, and she doesn't believe me.
I really have been trying to figure out the appeal, especially because, like I said, the zeitgeist of it was so rampant, and everyone I knew who had a 3DS was excited and playing this game. And I've learned that I can get burned if I get on board with things when they're at the height of excitement, that I really need to wait a little bit and assess how quickly or how strongly it drops off.
But for what it's worth, like, you're pretty receptive.
Yes.
Like, as long as you have a good intro. Like, when I introduced you to Pokemon,
yes,
you're like, Pokemon, what the hell?
And I'm like, no, please.
Like, that's for like 12-year-olds. But you ended up getting into Pokemon.
Oh God, did I?
So I feel like Animal Crossing is probably a similar situation where from the outside looking in, it's like, why the hell would I want to play this? This looks so dumb.
Yeah.
But that's the same way I felt about it, and I ended up playing that particular Animal Crossing for a very long time. So, Nick, what is your like driving appeal to Animal Crossing? Like, how can we give Sharon more information?
The thing that I love about Animal Crossing, and I should state that I played the original, at least original in the States, GameCube Animal Crossing, and played a little bit of the DS one, but didn't really get super into it because I didn't have anyone else to play it with, and then skipped the Wii one, so this is the first one I've really gotten into in a long time. The thing that I love about Animal Crossing is that it's a game about simple pleasures. It's a game where there's no rush to do anything. And in fact, the game actively discourages you from rushing around and trying to do everything at once, which I can totally understand how people would be frustrated with that. I personally find it to be really refreshing to have a video game that I can just sort of putz around in for like 30 minutes to an hour or so a day. And there's really awesome, like, chill music playing. All the random people in my town are all my super friends. And, I can get, when I find a cool new shirt or a cool new piece of shades or a Wario nose. You know, it's like that's the one thing that happened that day, and it's awesome. You know what I mean? It's like in the context of this game, just finding one little cool little thing, like that's enough. As opposed to like, you know, like I was saying before, like if you're playing like an action RPG or something on PC, where you have the constant drip of loot, and that means that a lot of the loot ends up being completely meaningless, and you're just putting it in your bag to sell. You know, this game doesn't even have like the stuff you put on your character. It's just there's no gameplay usage for it. There's no backwards baseball cap of +2 speed or something. Yeah. It's just sweet. I got a fancy backwards baseball cap. Yeah.
Is that a balloon poodle?
That's a balloon poodle lamp.
Oh.
How can something be a balloon and a lamp at the same time?
I don't know.
Animal Crossing. Play it.
I visited my buddy's town, and he gave me that balloon poodle lamp, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of hit it. It's just Animal Crossing is really simple at its core, but like you can always think of something to do for a little while every day, and eventually you get to the point where it's like, I don't need to play Animal Crossing more today because I've done what I need to do.
But it's not like you need 3 more energy to play this game more.
No.
Like that's I guess part of my.
No, but like what do you want to do today? Okay, I'll go fishing. Okay, catch a red snapper. No, I don't want to fish today. I'll go get my shovel. I'll dig some holes.
Why would you dig holes?
Maybe you find some fossils. You can sell them to the museum. The museum will show you the fossils forever and ever. Huh. Maybe you just want to piss off Tom Nook. Nick, what are your opinions on Tom Nook? Is he not like the most mafioso anthropomorphic animal of all time?
He is the shrewdest magical raccoon man in all of video games.
I never understood any of the Tom Nook jokes, and then I played Animal Crossing, and suddenly everything became very clear. Just think across all those Animal Crossing games and all those people playing how freaking rich Tom Nook is. Like he's like offering protection, basically.
Yep.
It's like, give me money or I'm going to take your house.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I think the 3DS is the platform for this game because it has the Street Pass features. And it has the online capabilities, and like going to, like I said, everything about this game is about, you know, simple thrills. Just going to a friend's town and talking to their villagers and seeing the villagers that they have in their town, and having them be super excited about meeting a new person. It's just so. The whole thing is just so wonderful.
You forgot the most important part, and that's stealing all of their fruit.
Oh, yeah. Stealing all their fruit, chopping down all their trees, planting a pitfall in front of their house.
Yes, digging holes everywhere.
Yep.
I guess we're horrible people, but whatever. Yes, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Not just for 10-year-old girls anymore.
Nope. It's just so chill and wonderful.
Yeah.
The music is also really good in this version, especially. I don't remember the music from previous ones. Maybe it's the same, but
not sure.
The music is mostly like it doesn't really get super in your face. It's just kind of setting the mood and like the music sounds really great for like, you know, summer afternoon, just sort of chilling out, running around fishing and catching bugs or whatever.
All right, cool. Animal Crossing, I might buy it. And then
it's
tease
really...
Sharon with it. I'll have to buy a copy for her too. The two of us can Animal Cross together.
Duh.
Well, you can also multiple people can move into the same town.
Oh, cool.
Same town.
Yeah.
You mean I have to share space with her? What?
Well,
I
you
don't
get your own
think so.
house.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's.
I was gonna say.
But that's kind of fun too. Like Matt's playing a little bit, not as much as I wish he would. But Matt's got a house in the town he moved in. Only the first person is the mayor, which is the new stuff in this one. I don't know if that was in the Wii version or not, but anyways, it's good. It's so good.
Cool.
It makes my heart happy.
Hearing more about your town, and then eventually coming to your town and stealing all your fruit. So be prepared. Hide all of your fruit. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me, really.
That's it?
That's a lot, though. I mean, that's a lot.
Well,
Sharon,
it's a lot of 2 games, yeah.
Yes. Sharon, I believe you are next.
I'm next.
You are next.
I'm next.
You're next.
I was recently gifted a game that's been on my wish list forever, on my Steam wish list forever.
It's because it never goes on sale.
And that's Aquaria. So I've been playing Aquaria, which is a 2D side-scrolling, I guess it's an action game. Although I'm still in the early stages, so I'm only a few hours into it, about 2.5 or 3 hours into it, so the action is still pretty slow at this point. This is, I think we talked about this a really long time, because this is done by one of the 2 guys who made Aquaria is one of the guys who went on to do Spelunky, which is a game that is beloved by this podcast.
Yes.
And this is a really pretty game. It's visually treated very well.
Ooh, mini-map.
There is a mini-map, yeah. Parts of the game are, the art styles don't match in some of the parts, which is a little bit disjointing at first, but also forgivable. The idea of the character is that your character at the beginning of the game has no memory of who she is or what she's doing, so you're sort of unraveling the story as you play along, and she doesn't actually interact directly with anything, so you're using the power of song. When you open up one of the menus, and it's sort of a 2-button system, but it also has nuances to that. So when you open up your one of your button system menus, a bunch of icons show up, like leaf and a drop and a sun, and like all these really pretty little basic icons. And when you select the icons in different sequences, it creates a different song, and different songs do different things, like create a shield for you, or move objects in the world, or interact directly with the things that you are not interacting with, if that makes sense.
Are you given clues as to what combinations do what?
Yes,
okay.
And sometimes they straight out tell you, and sometimes it's an environmental clue. Like there's one part pretty early on where you encounter these big stones, and they have symbols engraved in the stones, and obviously when you play those symbols in a particular order, the song sings and something happens, and you go, oh shit, I can do this now. So there is a lot of searching, like the direction in which you're supposed to go through the map is not terribly direct, so there is a lot of swimming around and sort of searching for your next clue or the next thing that opens it up. It's also the kind of game where you're going to go through it, or through a various part of the map. You're not going to understand something until you find something or something becomes apparent, and then you're going to go back. You're going to backtrack quite a bit.
Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Were you purposely avoiding using that term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Because I
because
kept expecting you to
say it.
Yeah.
There's backtracking, yes. Well, because I don't. Yeah.
Yes. Item and skill-based backtracking.
Yes.
This game is straight. Like, I've played a little bit of this game. I've never finished it for whatever reason, but this game is straight up an underwater Metroidvania in the most traditional sense. And that's, I mean, it's not.
Play it more.
It's a really well done.
It is, and there are like I said, there are nuances to it. So there is a system of alchemy, so you're like mixing things together to create healing potions, and I'm not quite there yet, but it looks as though you'll have armor crafting of some degree. Yeah, so there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
It looks like you've only just skimmed the surface.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm about 2.5 or 3 hours into it, and I still feel like I just finished the tutorial. Like, I've already found a number of things that I'm supposed to find early on, but I feel like just barely started. The music is really soothing, and it kind of gets a little kicky as the environment and the creatures start to get in your way, and like I said, I really like all the colors. It's treated really well.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the controls for this game?
The gamepad is tricky, I'm not going to lie, because I'm using the gamepad despite the fact that the prompts are for the keyboard and mouse. And
So that was my worry.
yeah, for some very specific things, I feel like I should not have been using the gamepad. Like, I would probably have done better with the mouse, but it's not unplayable with the gamepad. It's obviously, because it's a swimming game, it's floaty. So if you don't like floaty controls, you're probably going to be a little frustrated with some of this stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, when you are able to float by an enemy who's coming at you and you just barely miss them and you don't get hit, that feels kind of satisfying.
I had another question, which I think was mostly answered by some of the VideoCast footage we're staring at now, but it looks like there's not a ton of obstacles. Like, do you have health or anything?
Yes, you do have health. There are orbs that you collect that can help regenerate some of that health, but there's also, like I said, health potions you can create. What there are in certain sections is there's these little flowers that are color-coded according to your symbols, your song symbols. So you can go up to a yellow flower, which has like an orb at the end of the stem, and you use your yellow song, and the orb splits open and you pick up what's inside, which could be like oil or something, and you can use that to help create your health potions and things. There are enemies. Some of the fish will swim by you and not hurt you. Jellyfish will hurt you. Other things, some of the amoebas you can't touch, and there's fish that will crush you. Like, the further in you get, the more you find. The video that I submitted to you was a very exploratory part of my gameplay session, where it just shows a lot of the map and working your way through the map, because it's worth looking at.
And I have one more question for you, and this is the traditional Sharon question. Mm-hmm. Think you're gonna finish it?
I'm going to play more of it. I don't know if I will finish it. Okay. I guess I don't know how long it is, or sort of how. I don't even want to say how long it is, but
do you feel invested?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I pretty early on there was a story plot section where you meet up with a mysterious character, and during your there's the orbs there I was telling you about. During your meeting with this mysterious character, you were transported to sort of like a flashback of some kind, and the world changes, and the world becomes very dark, and the creatures become dark, and your costume, you all of a sudden are wearing black. You're very gothy all of a sudden. And I was like, ooh, maybe this is going to be one of those light versus dark sort of environmental plays, but it hasn't come up again. I basically, that opened the door to a narrative that talked about the amnesia, and then how you had to find your way home, and how things look familiar but you're not quite sure why. So if they're able to expand on that story, it might hook me in a little bit more, but I have to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I had the same problem with this game. I've tried playing this multiple times. I've played the probably the first 30 minutes a bunch, and it just never, for whatever reason, it just doesn't engage, even though it seemingly has all of the things that I would really love It's kind of the opposite Dota. This seems on paper like a game made for me, but it just doesn't. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It just never engaged me enough to finish it.
There's hints at a really strong storyline here. Like there are hints that this story could be super engaging, but with the amount of exploring that you're doing, the world being, really aesthetically pleasing and also at the same time not urgent, I feel like that sort of makes the story or the narrative secondary to everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am curious about it, but yeah, hearing both of you kind of say the same thing about it being almost.
That's what I was gonna say.
It almost
looks neat,
it looks really
I don't
cool.
know.
But like the way you guys talk, it's almost like you're saying, it's really pretty and everything, but it's kind of boring.
Well, it's not boring, but again, there's no sense of urgency. You're not like, oh man, I gotta make it to the next this, or
There are no timers.
I gotta make it. Well, and I usually hate timers, and I'm not saying this would be better with a timer. There's nothing that is propelling me forward other than curiosity.
Yeah.
And my own curiosity is good for a little bit, but not for a lot.
It's a feature. It's working as intended.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else have any comments about this? Anybody? Nobody?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
No problem.
I guess that means it's my turn again. So
Now, what not new games have you been playing?
So you guys should know by now. I am on like an old game kick recently. So I don't expect.
Recently?
Yes, like over the past. I would say
Over the past 30 years?
Yeah.
specifically for the past like 4 weeks, I've not been very invested in newer games. I've been playing a lot of older games, and I tend to go through phases like this every once in a while, and this would be a great example of a phase like that. So over the past 2 weeks, I have talked about how I've been part of a tournament where there were 53 people involved in a tournament in which 2 people have to race to a goal in a randomized game. And you don't find out what the game is until right before you're about to play it. So you could get pretty much anything. My first game that I played which I talked about 2 weeks ago at this point, was Bonk's Adventure for the Game Boy. And then in round 2, I played Maui Mallard for the Super Nintendo, and I actually ended up losing that match. So then I ended up in the loser bracket. And round 3, which I think we talked about last week when Nick was gone, but I know Jeremy was here, we talked about how I played Donkey Kong Country 2, which was the first time I'd ever played a Donkey Kong Country game, and I did not like it.
Oh yeah, I watched the archive of that, and I really wanted to jump in and agree with you.
That game didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Round 4, which I also talked about last week, I ended up playing Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which is a game I'm very familiar with, so I ended up winning that match as well. So that led us to the next round, which was round 5, which happened
This
week. Yeah. And I managed to pull out a game of a Nintendo game, which I'm good at most Nintendo games, but I'd never played this one. This is a Power Blade, which was done by the same guys who did Shatterhand.
Natsume.
The fine makers of Harvest Moon
Harvest
games.
Moon, which you always say every time.
I always say that every time.
Natsume, the fine makers of Harvest Moons.
I do say that every time. So, Power Blade. I played some Power Blade. Basically, this is a run and jump game about a guy who looks a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger with a boomerang. That pretty much explains the whole game. Where it's a platformer, pretty basic. You get a boomerang which you can power up and attack enemies with. And also, just like Shatterhand, which I had talked about several weeks ago when I was playing that game for like a week solid, you can get a super suit, which makes you extremely powerful. So there's not really a whole lot to say about Power Blade. I mean, look at that run animation. It's pretty janky.
I think it's hilarious. I feel like he's running on his tiptoes.
Yeah. also, like, this game has a lot in common with Shatterhand, and I think I talked a little bit about that game when I was playing it, but let me just reiterate some of the similarities. This game also features a level select, so you don't have to play the levels in any particular order, although they are numbered. The whole objective of the game is that you're in a platformer level, which is fairly non-linear. You have to find a guy who is your contact, and after you talk to him, he will give you an ID card, which gives you access to a door, which gives you access to the boss of the sector. So you find your ID, you find your contact, you get the ID, you find the door to the boss, you go in there, you kill the boss, and you win the sector. That simple.
Do you have to actually look and find it, or is it on your path anyways?
It actually differs from stage to stage. Like in Sector 1, they kind of make it like really dumb, so there's no way you can miss the guy who's got your key card because it's Sector 1. However, then you get into Sector 2, and if you go the wrong way, then you are pretty much like stuck.
Oh man!
I actually ended up winning this race mostly because my opponent went the completely wrong way to get the ID, and I got it on the first try for Sector 2. So I ended up beating him on that. But yeah, like the game graphically is pretty good. I think this game was on the cover of Nintendo Power. I know I feel like I say that every time, but I'm pretty sure this actually was on the cover of Nintendo Power, which means Nintendo thought enough of it to actually, feature it. Controls are good. It's got something I really love, especially in Nintendo games, which is 8-way attack. When you're in the air, you can actually throw your boomerang straight down or downward into like an angle. Versatility in Nintendo games is a big problem, right? Anyone who's a Castlevania fan can attest to that, because Simon Belmont can basically jump straight up or in an arc, and he can't really move a whole lot. Power Blade guy can move around. He can move in midair. He can shoot in 8 directions. That's pretty advanced for a Nintendo game, so I was pretty down with that. It took me, I don't remember how long it took me. I guess it took me about half an hour to finish this race. And Power Blade, it's good. It's good. I'm going to assume that as far as Nintendo games go, most people have probably not played it, but it's worth a shot if you're into semi-decent Nintendo games not made by Nintendo. So that was the first game. So I ended up winning that race. As I mentioned before, this tournament is double elimination, so the next time I lose, I'm officially out. So after playing Power Blade, I actually ended up getting my next opponent pretty much immediately that same day. So like 15 minutes after I finished Power Blade, we pulled a new game and a new opponent for round 6.
Ooh.
So I got a game I'd never heard of before. Mostly because this game's for the Game Boy Advance. And you guys own like one of those early Game Boy Advances
Yes, I did.
Without the backlight, like the Glacier Ice or whatever that was called.
That's what I had.
It was
I had every model of the Game Boy Advance.
They were
Actually,
awful.
I really loved that system.
Yeah, me too, but I loved it when it went to the GBA SP, like when you could actually see the screen. So the game that got pulled for me for round... God, what round am I on? 6. Is a game. It's a game called. What is it even called? It's called Kuru Kuru Kururin. That is not the Well, I guess it is the Japanese name. It's also the American name, and I didn't know what to expect because I again never heard of it before.
Did that come out in America?
No. I looked it up while you were streaming.
It came out in Europe.
Yeah,
that's why. Okay.
All the PAL, so Europe, Australia,
all right,
but not North America.
So this had no North American release. I didn't know what to expect, so I was playing this in a race with someone, and just by watching the beginning intro, I kind of determined that this game. You guys have ever heard of a game called Irritating Stick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nick brought that up in the stream that day.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that, like, even before playing it, that I think this game is Irritating Stick. So I started playing it, and lo and behold, it is basically Irritating Stick.
Yep.
For those unaccustomed, you basically have an object. In this case, it is a propeller, and the objective of the game is don't touch the sides, right? If you
Operation?
Yeah, exactly. If you've ever played Operation, like the board game where you have to like grab the dude's lung and pull it out and without touching the sides, Kururin is the same game. You have this propeller which is spinning in a determined direction, and the objective is to get to the goal without hitting the edges too much. In this case, you have 3 hits. Like you can hit it 3 times. If you do, you have to start over in the stage. If you get to one of these heart plates, which are placed at certain positions in each level, you get your hearts back. So it's a little bit forgiving, at least at first. Things ramp up in difficulty pretty quickly. So I played Kururin as my round 6 game. It's actually not a bad game, but it I don't know. It didn't really. I guess it didn't do anything for me from a purely intellectual position. Move it forward a little bit. There's actually these springs in the game which will reverse. They reverse the direction of your propeller, but every time you see them, you have to use them. So it's not really a puzzle. It's just like, oh, there's a spring. I should probably reverse the direction of my propeller. So the puzzles are usually designed that you need to be rotating in one specific direction, and then when you see the springs, it means, hey, for this part, you might want to be going in the other direction.
You can also adjust the velocity of your rotation, right?
Something like that. I don't know. I didn't really play the game long enough to kind of figure all that stuff out. All in all, to meet the goal requirements, I think it only took me 18 minutes, and my opponent took about 9 minutes longer than me, so I ended up winning this match as well. So unfortunately for Sharon and all the viewers and listeners, I'm still in this tournament. It is actually the semifinals now. I'm one of the last 8 people alive in this 53-person tournament. The semifinal match that I have is actually going to be directly after this podcast is over. So if you're watching it live, probably within an hour of this videocast ending, I will be doing a semifinal match.
We'll stream the semifinal.
Yes, and we'll be streaming it, obviously, because I have to stream all that stuff. So,
but this is the do or die situation for you.
As I mentioned, I have lost 1 match, so the next time I lose, I am out of this tournament. And my opponent is someone who I know is very, very good. So I will probably lose my next match.
Be optimistic.
But you never know. We'll try and bring one home.
You can do it.
Bring one home for the home team.
So, Nick, is that all you played this week?
That is not all I played this week. So I also I played one of my favorite old games. There was let me set this up a little bit. There was a conversation going on in a chat room that I frequent, and someone was offering $10 to anybody who has never played Kid Chameleon for the Genesis. You're offering $10 to anyone who could beat it.
That's called gambling, isn't it?
Yes, who could beat the game, like never playing it before, but beat it within 10 hours. Which if you've ever played Kid Chameleon, like, it's a pretty hard game. So I'm not blind. Like, I've played a lot of Kid Chameleon, so I did not take the bet. But all this talk about Kid Chameleon really made me want to play Kid Chameleon. So you know what I did? I played Kid Chameleon. Is there anyone here who's not familiar with Kid Chameleon?
I think I'm not. I don't know. I have to see.
Nick, Jeremy?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep. I played a bunch of Kid Chameleon.
Yeah. It's a game I played a lot of when I was a teenager. I actually, funny story, pre-Twitch, back in the old days, I actually filled up a whole VHS of me playing Kid Chameleon. The game is so long that I actually filled the whole tape before I was able to finish the game, and I don't even think I finished the game. So, Kid Chameleon, basically it's a platformer, probably one of the finest platformers ever designed. Tons of levels, branching levels, and your character can pick up suits that change your abilities and on the fly. So, for instance, in the video that we're watching currently, if you're watching live, I have a berserker suit, now switching to a knight suit, and each suit has different abilities, different jumping, all sorts of different things. So I want to say there's probably about 10 suits. It's not like there's 3 or 4. There's probably about 10 different suits. So the Berserker can charge forward and break blocks with his head, so you can get through blocks going sideways. The Knight can climb up walls. There's a Samurai suit, and Samurai actually has a sword, so you can sword enemies to death, and you can also do like a down thrust. There's a Fly suit, so you can turn into a tiny little fly who is not only a smaller target, but he can also climb walls. There's a like Jason mask, like a Friday the 13th Jason mask, so he can like throw axes because he's freaking Jason. God, what else? There's a Cyclone suit. You turn into this flying dude. Let me see if I can find a different suit here. Here's Cyclone. Well, I thought I had Cyclone. I guess I don't have Cyclone. There's Cyclone can fly. There's a Cyclops suit. Cyclops has a gun which doesn't hurt enemies, but he can make invisible blocks appear. There's a skateboard guy. Oh, here's Cyclops. There's a skateboard guy who has a skateboard, and it's actually a hoverboard, so he can fly upside down.
So there's lots of suits.
What else
essentially?
is there?
You don't
There's
have
more.
to list them all.
There's a dude who's a tank. Here's the dude with the tank, and he's just a tank, and he can shoot like skulls out of his cannon. Like, Kid Chameleon is pretty amazing, especially when you consider it's a Genesis game from like 1993. As far as platformers go, they don't get much better. I played this on stream for about an hour and a half. And I think out of the 4 segments of the game, I think I made it like halfway through the third before I actually wanted to take a short break. And I was on the continue screen, and I apparently forgot that if you don't actually choose to continue quick enough, the game will game over on you. So I ended up losing all that progress. To this day, I don't know if I've ever beaten Kid Chameleon from the beginning without using the super secret warp. But man, Kid Chameleon, awesome game. I guess that's all I have to say about it. Anyone have any comments about Kid Chameleon other than it's awesome?
I'm not sure I share your enthusiasm for
Really?
Kid Chameleon.
Why not?
I think it's a fine game. I'm not sure that I would include it as one of the best platformers of all time.
Oh, I disagree. I love the level design. It's super varied. Just all the different abilities, like even from suit to suit, whether a character can climb inclines or not, like is super defined. Like Kid Chameleon himself and like the Berserker suit and the Knight suit can climb up a diagonal incline, but if you're a Samurai or if you're the Freddy suit, you just always slide down them. Like it's the abilities of each suit are very super specific, and I've always found that to be really strong game design, especially when you get to levels that are specifically designed for suits, or areas of certain levels that are specifically designed for suits that might be hard to find, and like branching level paths, and every time you play the game it's a little bit different from the last time you played it.
I guess maybe it's just because I don't know as much about the nuance of the game, because instead of level design with a lot of variety, I always saw it as level design that was really scatterbrained.
It is a little scatterbrained from time to time. However, I will stand by some of the design decisions and not all of them. But when you get later on in the game, things start getting really devious and extremely hard.
Sure.
And I like that.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to give Kid Chameleon another shot, because
Well,
I mean, I never thought it was bad. I would have never included it among a list of all-time classics.
I think as far as platformers go, it gives you a lot of bang for your buck. Just in terms of, hey, I can choose a million different paths. Just find secret stuff. There's probably secret stuff in this game that to this day I'm finding, and I was like, I never knew this was here. Right now, I just walked through a wall to a transporter that I'm pretty sure before this particular gameplay, I never even knew it was here. Like, it's just...
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's not like, even in a game like Super Mario 3, which is also obviously one of the classic platformers, I feel like I could tell you where all the secret stuff is in that game. I can't say that about Kid Chameleon, and I've probably played it just as much, like over the course of my years. So, I would recommend giving it a shot. It's pretty awesome.
I always wondered why the knight could climb. It never really.
They needed
should be
an
heavier.
ability for him.
Yeah. When I think of medieval knights, I don't. My
Think of
first thought
agility?
is not. Yeah. My first thought is not climbing straight up sheer walls. But whatever.
What if he's Iron Man?
Could be.
Well,
I'm
then you just fly. I mean, why does he need to climb at that point?
I was just going to say I'm completely unfamiliar with this title because I don't even think I knew anybody who had a Genesis when I was a kid.
Aw. Yeah, I mean, I didn't own a Genesis, but I've played a ton of Kid Chameleon, so... yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about it. I might go back and try and beat it again, because I feel really bad about how this particular game session ended. It didn't end with me losing all of my dudes, it ended with me just being lazy and forgetting to press start, so...
Oh, no.
Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty much all I've been playing, other than whatever I will be playing in about an hour's time. Which
Cool.
hopefully some people will stay and hang out for that. If not, screw you.
Oh, that's horrible.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I hope it's a game I know. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to win.
Be positive.
In any event, that's what we've been playing this week.
It's a good variety.
Why don't we take a look?
I wanted to mention quick that
Yeah.
irritating stick, that whole subgenre of game, actually started as a Japanese game show
Oh, cool.
That's pretty cool.
where someone was actually moving a stick and it would vibrate, like give them like a fake little shock through vibration if they touched the sides of
That's
the
cool.
maze. Yeah.
That does make me want to play Operation, though.
I don't think we own an operation board.
Oh, I do.
So why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some news super quick.
Sure, we'll talk about news.
Yeah, super quick.
We'll talk about
Yeah,
news.
rapid fire
No,
news.
well, not that rapid.
marginally quick. All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back. Guys, we are back for the second half of this podcast. You guys ready for some news?
Sure.
Has the sugar rush worn off yet? Because
News
I'm
and
still
stuff.
a little shaky. Guys, things happened in video games this week.
It's been an entertaining week.
Sharon, would you like to tell us what's going on in video games? Because that's kind of what you do the best.
Aw, come on.
Well, you're better than us at it anyway.
The news. Well, let's just see. Let's start off with the biggest news that came out this week, and that is the seemingly reversal that Microsoft pulled on the requirements for connectivity and used games. So last week when E3 was happening, we talked a little bit about how Microsoft had terms and policies about used games and connectivity in terms of having to be connected every 24 hours and game cloud connectivity, and I don't want to keep saying that word, connectivity.
Cloud. Hey guys, cloud, internet, cloud stuff.
In any event, this past week they set out a new statement that said that they would no longer require it. You would require a one-time setup connection, and then if you chose to play offline, you were allowed, and that you would be allowed. They would allow you to trade in, lend, resell, and gift disc-based games. So they shifted their stance a little bit on pushing digital distribution as the main goal of Xbox One, to saying, all right, you want your disc-based games, you've got it, and you want to play offline, that's fine, but it's up to the third-party people if they want to have you be required to play their games connected to the cloud, if that makes sense, if I said that
Cloud.
right.
Yep.
So that came out, and then all of a sudden, everybody was like, wow, way to go back on what you think is cool, Xbox One. And it seems like Microsoft is in a no-win situation here, because they spent so long talking about what they thought was the movement towards the future of gaming, and then when they got all that feedback, they were like, okay, the way they spun it was, your feedback is important to us. And in fact, the press release was called "Your Feedback Matters." And then they made these retractments or new statements on what we can expect. So the internet still wasn't very happy, because now it's like a Netflix Flickster type of thing where they flip-flopped on their stance, and yeah, it's hard to maintain credibility that way. What do you guys think? What do you think about the new update?
I
Go ahead.
think it's... I don't understand why they had to go all the way back. I don't understand why they couldn't have come to some compromise where, like, axing all the features that they had. So, personally, my biggest problem with the original announcement for the way the Xbox One worked was just that they were trying to redefine how physical media works, which is not... that just didn't make any sense to me. It's like, let's take this thing, the way people have been using physical media for almost 100 years, and say, nope, doesn't work that way anymore. Of course you're going to get people to balk at that. Of course you're going to get people upset. But there's no... I don't understand why they had to axe all of the all of the new features for digital content. I don't understand why they can't have both. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why having a more traditional disc-based thing precludes them from having more progressive digital policies.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess one of the big arguments that's been made so far is that Microsoft is just trying to change the way we consume digital media, and you might not like it now, but everything's going to eventually change, so hashtag deal with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it wasn't broken. Like, people are not asking for it to change, so why are you trying to change it?
Right.
I personally think that the argument that it needs to change is a load of BS. I don't think it's broken. And
change is organic in anything. Like it just happens on its own.
So you don't need to force it down our throat.
Yeah.
And this isn't the way they were going to do it is not the way to enact change. It's not setting up a bunch of policies to force you to do something in a way that feels completely alien to the way you've done it for a very long time. The way to enact change is to just make a really good service that people want to use. Just if Microsoft really wanted to push this all digital future thing, they should have made a really good service that competed on a one-to-one level at the very least with Steam. And they haven't yet. They still haven't. The policies that they had in place before still weren't competing with that, because Steam is not perfect, but it is at least right now the best standard we have for digital game management. And the policies that they had in place before were inarguably worse than the service that Steam provides for you. Because Steam does not require 24-hour check-ins.
Right.
Steam does not require anything to be standard across the entire platform. You can sell a game on Steam and have no actual DRM in it whatsoever, including the Steam DRM itself. There are a ton of games on Steam, and I think they should. I think they should maybe advertise this a little more, because this is not a thing that a lot of people realize about Steam. But it's entirely up to the publisher or developer for how much or little of the built-in Steam DRM they want to use. There are tons of games on Steam that you can buy once, go into offline mode, and never have to connect Steam to the internet ever again, and you can play it forever.
Yeah.
And it's so, basically, long story short, they weren't competitive before, and they're even less competitive now. It just doesn't make any sense to me. This isn't. They're not being competitive. They just want to have their. They want to play the game their way, and if they're not going to play the game their way, they're going to take their ball and go home.
Well, then they better go home.
One of the comments in the press release, like typed out in the press release, blew my mind. It says, "We have listened and we have heard loud and clear from your feedback that you want the best of both worlds." And I thought, ouch, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's a little condescending, but.
But they're not giving you the best of both worlds. They're taking away the one feature that was even remotely competitive was the family sharing.
They're playing safe to the voice of their customers, I guess.
The angry mob.
But I feel like they've spent so much time and attention building this back, I don't know, infrastructure, I suppose, to support all of the things that they were touting at the very beginning, that it's not completely unrealistic to expect them to continue to move in that direction after the consoles are in people's homes.
I feel like they should have just rolled with it, honestly, and see where it went, because I mean, it's not like they were hurting in sales. I read some article where both systems are nearly neck and neck in sales and selling out all over the place. So it's you're just turning back and sort of just trying to compete with the PlayStation because you're afraid of your angry mob. So
let me ask you guys a question then. How much work do you think Microsoft did on the back end to set this up so that at least people with used games, at least the publishers of those games or the developers of those games, were getting a cut? It sounds like that was one of the end results of the way that their used game system worked, was that every time used games were bought or sold, that the developers got a cut, and that's obviously going away. How much work do you think Microsoft did behind the scenes to get that to work? And now that that is officially gone, how do you think developers and publishers are pissed off that suddenly like they're like right back where they started with their relationship with Best Buy and GameStop or any other groups that sell used games? Like I feel like if anything, maybe they got some goodwill back from the consumers, but maybe they burned some bridges on the other side with developers and publishers again. It's like, how do you win that situation?
There's no winning at this point. Like I don't know. I feel like Microsoft is in a no-win situation.
I mean, they're gonna sell units. You're gonna sell units just based on name recognition alone. Look, little Jimmy back at home, he's 10 and he's got a 360 and he plays Call of Duty and yells on Xbox Live and calls people dirty names all night. And he's going to ask his mom if he can get the next Xbox, and she's going to say, "Sure thing, Jimmy, we'll get it for you for Christmas." And Jimmy's going to open up Christmas and he's going to have an Xbox One. And it's going to have nothing to do with anything that we just talked about. It's just because it's the next one. So then I asked myself the question, how much of any of this really matters? Like, is this just like the vocal minority? Like, are we the vocal minority that gives a garbage about any of this?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if it's the vocal minority, because I feel like as much as we have discussed it here on the podcast, none of us have written a Dear John to Microsoft and said, "I am not going to buy your system," because like,
"Dear Madam" or "Sir."
I feel like we are in a demographic of people who pay attention to this, and not only pay attention to it because we want to be educated consumers, but also because we want to see the long-term growth of this industry. And things like the policies that they're initiating affect that.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird situation. I wonder if this gains them anything, like, really in the long run.
We'll see.
Yeah, I guess.
I think it's personally, I think it's no-win situation, because some people who were upset before may not be upset now, but people who were not upset before are now upset because you just can't win. People are going to find fault with everything. So.
The system will be fine. It still costs $100 more than the PlayStation 4, so there's that giant gorilla.
It's just the media flip-flop that they're going to have to deal with now.
Microsoft's just going to have to spend more money in advertising than they thought they were, because now they're going to have to smooth it over. And I for what it's worth, I think Microsoft has what it takes to make that happen, and we might be singing a very different song when all this drops later this year.
Maybe.
So, because, Sony, they could always screw up. Kind of like how they did this past week.
All right, there's your segue. There's your segue. Okay, so this was just, 2 days ago? A couple days ago. There was a firmware update that we're all familiar with because Sony does them all the time. Firmware update for your PS3 console. And apparently that firmware update was flawed and caused many people's PS3s to brick, as it were, which means it no longer works. And very quickly news spread, and people were told, do not log in, do not update your firmware, because it will destroy your system. And then I think they put out another patch to fix that, so...
the patch is actually not even out yet.
Oh, so still don't do it?
They're still trying to figure it out. So the original firmware patch that was destroying PlayStation 3s has been revoked. So you can log into your PS3 now, and you will not download that evil patch. However, the patch that will fix the problem, I'm not sure if by fix the problem they mean if you had a bricked PS3, it will suddenly come back to life.
Or it'll just fix the firmware update.
Yeah, or if it's just the firmware update that will actually work. But that will drop on the 27th, which is 5 days from now.
That's a long way away. But at least now you don't accidentally update your firmware to a useless...
And I guess that doesn't really matter, because if you're a PS3 owner, the last thing you want right now is more firmware updates. Every time I turn that machine on, it's updating.
I know.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you don't turn it on,
Yes, exactly.
I don't even know
Sharon
what
and
that's
I
about.
realized that our PlayStation 3 has been on for like the past week.
But no, I turned it off like 3 days ago. I physically turned it off, and then
They're
all
watching
of a
you?
sudden, it was
Like, you might be.
turned on again.
So yeah, so here's the question: do you think Microsoft timed their announcement with this PlayStation gaffe, or did they
No.
just try to take things as quickly as humanly possible to kind of repair the E3 damage?
I think it's just a coincidence. I think they just put it out quickly because it's a flip flop and you want to get it over with.
Yeah. Suddenly you remember that Sony is kind of the bumbling idiot in the internet era when it comes to their online network. Like that's kind of what I gather from it. It's like, oh yeah,
They're
Sony-
better than Nintendo.
Yes. Now that I think of it, Sony was kind of incompetent for the past generation of internet connectivity, and it was actually Microsoft that has managed to do fairly well. So
Their system was fine. It just required updates all the damn time.
every like 2 days, it's like, hey, everything's broken, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft heard the news and some PR guy said, "Do it now, do it now, do it now." Like got on the phone and said, "Major Nelson, get your ass on the phone and call some people." And that wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Come on, that underhanded garbage happens all the time. All the time.
I think the timing of their announcement probably had more to do with some sites breaking the news before they were ready.
Could be. Makes you wonder what would have happened. What do you think this would have happened if Sony had announced the console price at $500 as well? Then do you think Microsoft
they
would
would
have
have done a
cared as
backtrack?
much about all the DRM?
I don't even think that. No, I think it was just backlash. They got a lot of backlash.
How about so like I just
You're
like
reading into things.
I like asking questions to just let you think about everything that could happen.
them
What
stew.
if Sony was not even half as aggressive as they were? Like that was clearly like the most aggressive E3 conference I've seen in ages. Like what happens if they come out and they just play it straight instead of playing it like the asshole?
But then I think people
card
would have
that they
been
did.
less excited, and you still would have had your fanboys on both sides of the pillar. And I don't know. I think it just would have been more of the same. But instead, they sort of were a catalyst for an exciting and entertaining look forward.
I know. I guess my point being the fact that Sony was so aggressive, like, kind of set up Microsoft in a position where they had to act more quickly.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. Sony screwed it up again. Come on, man. They have the momentum. Now they just have to actually live up to it.
Well,
Which-
just give it a few months.
Yeah, it's been a problem for Sony over the past generation, so let's see if they can get their act together. Right? It's only, 6 months away? 5 months away?
Yeah.
Don't screw this up, Sony.
November 27th, I think, is when Xbox One is officially releasing.
Just don't screw it up, Sony. All you gotta do is, like, not mess up for 5 months.
I mean, like this problem right here with the PS3 is because both of these systems, the PS3 and the 360, were not built with the modern world in mind. They were both retrofitted. More so the 360, and they still got it to kind of work. But also, the PS3 is a really strange bit of engineering. Who's the lead guy when the PS3 came out? What was that guy's
I
name?
don't even remember.
The guy that...
He's clearly not the lead guy anymore.
yeah, they sort of forced him into retirement
Yeah.
because he was kind of crazy. He was the dude that said they wanted you to have a second job. And he's the guy that designed the cell processor. And anyways, he's... I'm just going to say it. He's a bad engineer. The PS3 is a weird, strange piece of hardware.
And that has been proven by 6 years of awful ports.
Yeah,
Like, you can look at just that. Like, just ignore all of the first party or all the exclusives and look at the ports. And like every single time there's a port, it's like, 360 version's pretty good. PS3 version's got some issues. Look at BioShock. Look at Skyrim. Like the Skyrim version for PS4 was buggy to the end. Fallout, like I remember Fallout 3.
PS3, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
The PS3 version of Fallout was practically unplayable, from what I understand, because it just hitched up all the time.
I don't.
My point was just that I don't think you can take current PS3 problems as evidence that they're not going to do their best to fix.
Yeah. No,
stuff
I
in the
agree.
next system.
I agree 100%. I think if anything, I treat those things as lessons. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
when we did that and everything fucked up? Let's not do that this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, for the most part, I think Sony did a better job of realizing that than maybe Microsoft has. Like, Microsoft was more like, hey, remember when we were so goddamn successful? Well, we're still going to be successful, so we're not going to change anything.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway from and this is going back to last week when they did the E3 press conferences, but my takeaway is that of the previous generation, Sony paid attention to what people actually want, and Microsoft is ready to tell people what they want.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of where I see
Yeah.
those two coming into the next generation.
That makes sense. Makes sense. We'll see. I'm sure this will not be the last news bite we have about these two systems duking it out.
Well, it's going to be a couple of months before it's actually out. So
What would make it more interesting is if we have a reason to throw Nintendo back in the mix.
maybe
know.
Can
they'll
hope.
come up with something.
Depressing.
Hey, I've got one to throw in the mix for you.
Yeah?
This is something that you brought to my attention because I had no idea they were doing it. But NVIDIA has some sort of handheld thing coming out.
Yeah. Actually, I remember hearing about this ages ago and then promptly forgetting about it until literally today. Guys, NVIDIA has...
Is it the Shield?
The Shield is a handheld that NVIDIA designed. Guys, it's coming out next week.
Not at
Weird.
Christmas, not for the holidays. Next week.
Guys, I forgot about this. It's out next week. It's called the Shield, and it's a handheld that looks like a controller
Yeah, a controller with a screen.
with a screen attached.
Yeah.
What? And, so actually, let's get to the root of the actual news. The news is that they price pointed this thing at $350. And the news is that they're like, shit, we can't sell this at $350, so they dropped the price $50. So now it's only $299. So what's on your plate? You gonna buy a PS4 at $400 or the Nvidia Shield at $300? Anybody?
I haven't read enough into it to see if it's like good. I don't know.
What is supposed to be like the type of games that we would encounter on the NVIDIA Shield?
So, like, I have to admit, until today, I forgot this existed. Watching the video, like, there looks like a fairly competent first-person shooter. You know, it's got 2 analog sticks. That's good. The controller actually looks a lot like a 360 controller with the left analog and a D-pad just swapped. But like, what's the battery life on this thing? It's gotta be pretty low.
Yeah.
Does it take double A's? I don't know. I guess I don't trust NVIDIA because they don't have an established presence in the gaming community, other than making video cards for PCs, which is fine.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
Mine's NVIDIA.
Right, but a gaming console is a lot more than a video card.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, that could be argued. Actually.
Does anyone know anything about this console? Like, are there...
I'm pretty sure it's Android powered.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically an Ouya.
Well,
Yeah. An Ouya with probably a, like, mobile NVIDIA chip in there. It's strange enough and different enough that it's going to have to be... It's a thing that people are going to have to make games specifically for, or at least do actual work in porting to. So I just don't know what incentive anyone has to make a game for it.
I just don't know.
You know?
The price. So between the price and the obscurity and the fact that it's a company without a strong presence in video game hardware other than graphics cards, the first thing I thought of when I thought of the NVIDIA Shield was the Nokia N-Gage. Which anyone familiar with the
Yes.
Nokia N-Gage?
Yes, yeah.
Nokia.
Side talking forever.
Exactly, side talking. Like Nokia made a game console / phone back in, I believe, 2003, and it went on to be like a massive failure for them.
I think it might have been even earlier than that, because I remember it came out when I was working at a large retail game store.
Yeah, they eventually redesigned it, the N-Gage QD, so that the side talking went away. If anyone doesn't know what side talking is, the running joke about the Nokia N-Gage was that when you wanted to use it as a phone, you actually had to hold this fairly large-sized phone, taco-shaped, up to your ear, like on the side, like not as a normal phone where you hold it flat up to your ear, but like on its side. So you
can even cricket between your shoulder and your ear.
Right, and it actually spawned like a very well-known troll website called sidetalking.com, where people would just take any random object they would find and hold it up to their ear on their side and take a photo. And that was a pretty funny time in the internet. But that's actually the first comparison I made was, man, this is like the N-Gage all over again. It's someone coming in from the outside trying to make a console that has no established roots in other hardware. Like, they don't have a deal with Microsoft or a deal with Sony or Nintendo. Like, they're trying to go head to head with all this other stuff. And
one of the things that
I don't know,
I've just come across is that it says that the console, which is the NVIDIA Shield, allows for the streaming of games running on a compatible desktop or laptop PC. So the function allows certain Windows games to be played on the Shield, similar to like the Remote Play that Sony has. And I can give you
certain Windows games.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very good.
The list of confirmed games right now is Assassin's Creed 3, Batman Arkham City, Battlefield 3, Borderlands 2, Dishonored, Hawk and Left 4 Dead 2, Metro Last Light, Portal 2, Elder Scrolls, and Resident Evil 6.
That's a pretty good list.
And then there's a bunch of Android games as well.
Not a terrible list, yeah.
No,
It's very specific, but
it's a very good list. But I guess until today, I forgot that this existed, and I follow the industry pretty closely. Like, what does that say about their penetration?
The mass market.
It's. I hope. All I can say is I hope they have a pretty big presence in stores, because this thing is going to get lost.
I actually always wondered, but didn't really care enough to look into it. So maybe one of you guys know, does it, when it's that feature for streaming PC games, does it stream over the internet? Because if not, what's the point? Like, if you're just streaming it on your local network, if you're at your house, why would you use this thing?
I have the NVIDIA Shield website, which I will link in the post with the podcast. If you're listening to us live, you can find it at shield.nvidia.com, and it tells you a little bit more about what we just talked about. I mean, not a lot more. It basically says the same stuff.
I think I have one more thing to say about this.
All right.
And you guys may agree or disagree. This is very opinionated, but this thing's ugly.
Yeah.
The way the screen pops up off of it, like, it reminds me of when I had the old Game Boy, and then you had to like put the Game Boy Light and the Game Boy magnifier on it, and then suddenly your Game Boy had like all these things sticking off of it. Like, that's what it reminds me of.
Oh man, I had a ridiculous setup for my original Game Boy. It had like giant folding speakers over the top.
Yeah.
And like you unfold the speakers and then you pull up the magnifying glass, and it had a thing that went over the buttons that turned the D-pad into a joystick, and it was ridiculous.
The controller, like, for what it's worth, the controller ergonomics look fine. but it's just that I would not want to be walking around in public one of those things.
Yeah.
It's kind of big.
This one, there's another little info bite here on their site that doesn't attest to whether or not it's using your home network or some sort of 3G or what have you, but it also allows for streaming. Like, it looks like they've got some sort of deal with Hulu and
Okay.
some whatever this music thing is here.
Still pretty weird. It makes me really appreciate the aesthetics of, say, the PSP, which is a very sleek looking black system, like even like a DS Lite. Pardon me, not the original DS, the DS Lite, or even the 3DS, like, nice curves.
There we go. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but stream your PC games over Wi-Fi to play anywhere in the house.
That sounds like a disaster.
That's so dumb. Why would you do that?
With always-on access to Google Play, NVIDIA Tegra Zone libraries. I guess that's where you can take your things on the go. So
Okay,
it looks
so
like
it's
that's
another,
where. Yeah.
It's another portable device that you can stream media to. Hey,
Yes.
we need another one of those too.
I don't see this succeeding. It's a DOA. That's all I gotta say about this.
Well, in any event, if anybody listening wants one next week, 27th.
The 27th, you can go to your local retailer and buy one for the low price of $2.99.
So here's a story that I didn't realize was a story, but Nick, you're going to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
The Last Guardian is officially not on hiatus, not coming.
So, I had to put this story, and I put this story in specifically because I'm a big fan of this studio and all the games they put out. So, Last Guardian, next game by the guys who made Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the
Eco?
Colossus, guys,
Eco?
that game came out in 2005.
What?
2005.
Get out
But
of town.
it was a relatively unknown game too.
Really?
I mean, at least in my ring of friends, like no one had ever heard of it, and then somebody picked it up and they're like, "Dude, this game is freaking amazing!" And I was like, "Wow, it's interesting."
Yeah. So, The Last Guardian was that team's next project. It was announced several years ago. I want to say 2008 or 2009, and then we didn't really see a whole lot about it. And a lot of rumors went around. It's still going. Oh, the project has some issues. Might be canceled. It's been up in the air for a long time. Exactly what's going on with The Last Guardian, and it has actually become one of those perennial. Was it at E3? No, it wasn't at E3. Was it at E3 this year? Nope, wasn't there again.
One of those Beyond Good and Evil 2 things?
Yeah, exactly. Where it's the one game that everyone is like, man, I hope it's there this year, and then it never shows up. So there were some strong indications before E3 this year that The Last Guardian would finally show up, and it was a no-show again. So that led a lot of people to ask more questions about what is up with this game. And I believe it was actually Jack Tretton who worked, Sony head dude.
He's the Sony guy?
Yeah, he's like, game's on hiatus. Now I don't know what you guys think the word hiatus mean, but to me that means it's been shelved indefinitely and no one is working on it.
Well, I don't know. I kind of wonder who's really expecting that this game is ever going to be finished, because Ueda left.
Yeah, and that's a good
like
point.
a year ago.
That's a good point. Like he was the main dude for this team, and he's not there anymore. So it's like, well, does that mean the team is also defunct? I don't know. What's his face left Team Ninja, and they're still making games.
Sort of.
if you want to call them games, but
They're
it's
still remaking Ninja Gaiden, basically.
Yeah, the footage that we've seen in trailers, like even the footage we're looking at right now, suggests that The Last Guardian was far enough along. Like, this looks like in game to me. This doesn't look like a pre-render.
I don't know.
In any event, after Jack Tretton's comments that it was on hiatus, new comments from the other side of the ocean came up and said, Maybe, you know what? It's not on hiatus. It's in active development, and we're still working on it. So it actually seems like competing, like other places in Sony are actually contradicting themselves, and the whole company has no freaking idea if this game is coming out. And
Weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. Which is too bad because I really want to play it, even if it stinks. Or like, just give me the half of the game that's done, and I would be happy to play that half. I don't know.
Then you'd be really upset that it wasn't done and it was all QuickTime.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
Somebody at Sony just working on it in a closet somewhere, and they're
It's
like,
like, no, man, I have the rights to it, and I work on it every half hour after dinner.
One guy is individually animating every feather on the Guardian's like back. I don't know. I have to give the team benefit of the doubt because their games are always really beautiful, and the style that we see in this trailer suggests that this is, in the same style vein. And again, I feel like this looks like gameplay based on what I know of the games that they make. This does not look pre-rendered to me at all. So, how far along was the game, and why the hell isn't it out yet?
Because there's nobody there to finish it.
It's so sad.
It is sad, but is it surprising?
I don't want it to be surprising. I want it to be done.
It's not. You are going to have to pick up the pieces of your life
Man.
and move forward.
I guess I'm just going to have to go back and
Play more Ico.
play more Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah. Anyone have any comments about it? I mean, I guess it's not really a news story, but I had to bring it up because it makes me slightly angry.
No, there's no.
We're sorry for your loss.
Maybe they're retooling it for the PS4.
No, stop getting your own hopes up.
No, I refuse. Someday I will play Duke Nukem Forever.
Oh, God.
Because
that worked out well, right?
don't play Duke Nukem Forever.
Okay, I will.
Ever?
So yeah, that's all I have about that. I had to vent.
All right. Well, one more sad, and then we'll do a happy, I guess.
Okay.
As everybody most people on the internet know, there was a very large search happening for one of the contributors to Rooster Teeth, David Dreger. Am I saying his last name right?
I think so.
And unfortunately, he was found and has deceased. And I guess our thoughts go out to his family, friends, and everybody at Rooster Teeth for their loss.
Yeah, they still don't know what happened, but I guess right before he disappeared about a month ago, and I guess right before he disappeared, like, he actually closed his Facebook and Twitter accounts and left his phone at home. So it's starting to look like this was a calculated event.
Disappearance.
Yeah. So.
But regardless, the fact that they now know what has happened to him means that they can, start grieving. And
between that and the Oculus Rift guy,
I know
what's going on.
It's unfortunate, really unfortunate.
Too bad.
So anyway, our deepest sympathies to everybody involved there.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And
I shed a tear for both him and The Last Guardian. 2 deaths in one podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to tell you about something that I think is kind of exciting.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. Ken Levine, the guy who is responsible for some of the better BioShock stuff.
He's the head dude.
He's the guy. And actually, if you follow him on Twitter, he's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah. I love Ken Levine.
Yeah. And I really like his his creativity, the way that he treats things from his imagination. Anyway, the point of this is that he was just signed on, I think, by Warner Brothers to write the screenplay for the remake of Logan's Run, which is an old sci-fi flick. And that's pretty exciting because, yeah, it just is.
So, I've never seen Logan's Run. Can
All
anyone
right,
tell me what
we're
it's
not
about?
renting Waterworld. We're gonna watch Logan's Run.
We'll just rent both.
It's not a great movie.
But it will be.
Go out there and maybe.
I see a lot of
You don't think that
poofy
he's
blouses.
gonna be able to take something and You don't think he'll be able to make something with this?
I mean, it's kind of do you know anything about it? Do you know what the basic premise is?
Know nothing about it.
So the basic premise of Logan's Run is it's this future society that
The future looks a lot like the 70s.
yeah. It's this future society that people die when they turn 30.
Oh damn! I'm dead.
There's some big ceremony or something, or maybe it's not 30. I don't know. They die when they reach a certain age, so it's only young people living in this society, and the titular character decides he doesn't want that and goes for a run.
Well said.
Yeah.
There's I hate to totally nerd it up a little bit, but that's very similar to a Next Generation episode.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just a very it's just a very cheesy story that can be cheesy in a fun way, but it's more suited for, you know, like some pulp sci-fi magazine like Amazing Stories or something like that, you know, than first of all a 70s movie, and second of all a remake of a 70s movie.
I mean, the plot is okay for a sci-fi movie, but I could see a remake being popular, I guess. It's an interesting concept.
I wish, I mean, at this point, this is just a futile wish, I suppose, but I wish someone would let Ken Levine write a new thing. I would like to have Ken Levine write a new movie of his own invention instead of a remake of something.
Maybe this will be the door.
Maybe.
This is the door that blows open. But I really like his sensibility in terms of how he treats science fiction, so I'm hoping that this is a good thing.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm watching right now.
I don't mean to be a super cynical downer about it, I guess. But.
All right, we'll rent it. We'll watch it. We'll get back to you, and hopefully it'll be just as bad as.
I like really cheesy sci-fi. I
mean, it's, don't get me wrong, it's fun in a really cheesy way.
It's like
just
watching
I don't
Dune,
understand.
I guess. You know.
At least there's no one telling you to get off your lawn.
Oh.
Because they're all dead.
Dune is brilliant. David Lynch Dune is a wonderful, amazing, brilliant movie.
I love it, but I also think that parts of it are really, really cheesy.
So, I guess that's all the news that's fit to use.
So what are we going to spend our money on this week, Nick?
Video games, mostly.
What kind? What's coming out?
So, I don't know what the hell's coming out. Probably nothing.
What do you mean you don't know? That you had one job, Nick.
Had one job.
So, for the Wii U, we got Game & Wario, which sounds a lot like a WarioWare game. So
Gaming Wario?
Game and Wario. It's a play on Game & Watch.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I love that name.
Yes, it's I like WarioWare games. I don't have a Wii U, so
I think this one is not micro games.
Oh well, then screw that.
I really find it hard that they have not found a way to make the WarioWare franchise or genre apply to cell phones and apps. Because I would love to play those little stupid mini games all day.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're great drinking games.
Yes. Joe Danger coming to PC and Joe Danger 2. Those are originally PS3 games, I believe, and then jumped to 360. Now they're going to PC. So you can look for those on Monday.
I always heard they were good. Never played them.
Me too. Speaking of ports. Did you know that they're porting Muramasa to the Vita this week? Muramasa was originally for the Wii. It's a Vanillaware game, so it's one of those like beautiful cel-shaded games. Muramasa is excellent, but I never got a chance to play it. because I
Yeah, me
couldn't get
neither.
a copy. But I heard nothing but amazing things about it. Most of all of the Vanillaware games are like serious eye candy, like bright, vibrant colors, super fluid animation. Miramasa is like a straight up action game in that vein. Definitely look it up on YouTube if you want to see what it looks like. It's crazy beautiful, and apparently they're redoing it for the Vita, which I also do not own. So
This is some anime.
it is. It's
My goodness.
It's Japanese developed, so it's got an anime aesthetic. But as far as like video game animation goes, Vanillaware does better than everyone. So, what else is coming out?
Rogue Galaxy. I can't wait. That game's finally coming out.
What game?
Rogue Galaxy?
That's Rogue Galaxy. I think I talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, you mean Rogue Legacy?
Oh yeah,
Rogue
Damn it.
Galaxy.
Rogue Legacy.
Yeah, Rogue Galaxy is a completely different game for the PS2. I was gonna say, what?
right.
Why Rogue Galaxy?
Oh, Rogue Legacy is the one that you showed us. That,
Yes, the one where you have the lineage of characters.
right.
Yeah.
That
That
does
actually
look
is
Oh,
really
yeah.
exciting.
Coming out on Thursday.
yes.
Oh, man.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I want that.
Me too.
God, what else is coming out this
I will
week?
probably be doing a lot of streaming and/or videos about that game.
Good.
Because, yeah.
Yeah. You know what else is coming out this week? I don't know if we have any Magic the Gathering fans out there. Duels
Oh, yeah.
is Duel of the Planeswalker time.
Wow, already.
Actually, I'm interested in this one for the first time since the very first one of these because this is the first one to include deck building and other modes.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So
Wasn't
It
there
has like a random like a starter. It has like booster drafts mode and like sealed deck mode, which is
yeah, in
those are
previous
fun.
games you got a thematic deck and you could add or remove cards,
Oh.
but they like everything, like if you had 70 cards for the deck, you could make a 40 card deck out of like the best 40 of that 70. This one
Yeah.
seems to have more fluidity where you get a bigger pool, especially of multicolored cards, so you can actually build a 2-color deck.
That's cool.
Which is something that previous games did not really expand on too much. So that is coming out on Tuesday. Totally snuck up on me. It feels like just yesterday I was playing 2013. So I will probably pick that up. And guys, PS2 Classic coming out for the PlayStation 3 network.
Oh?
Riding Star.
Oh.
You can own your very own horse and race it around and pet its hair. Yes. Riding
Darn.
Star for PS2.
Why?
Because of me, that's
Why?
why.
It's literally listed as a PS2 Classic.
PS2 classic.
So stupid.
Some loose definition of classic.
I really, I'm sorry to everyone I've offended by making fun of pony games because I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Riding Star predates the fascination with pony, the whole pony culture. So
No, I don't mean like My Little Pony. I mean like the dream games that we keep ragging.
right,
I keep
right.
ragging on.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure who the developer of Riding Star is. It's not
I mean,
important.
I think, like equestrianism, is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Equestrian sports are, they can be potentially cool. And for people that are into that, that's
Oh, yeah.
cool. I just don't.
But as a game,
Yeah, well, I mean, even as a game, it could be good. I just don't know if there ever has been one that hasn't just been blatant, crap caching stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Company of Heroes 2 is coming out this week.
Yep.
I'm not a Company of Heroes guy. Any you guys know anything
No.
about that? No.
Nope.
All right. And last but not least, there's a game coming out for 360 and PS3. This has B title written all over it. You ready for this title and its complete ambiguity?
Sure.
It's called Ride to Hell Retribution. What the fuck does that even mean?
I'm about to look at
Oh.
this at Steam.
It's like, dude, we need a name for
Oh,
this.
it's a motorcycle game.
Oh, there you go. Okay, it's MotoGP, but it's a Ride to Hell.
Ride to
Only-
Hellstorm Retribution Rising.
Only $30.
Okay, $30 for Okay.
It looks graphically okay, I guess,
Yeah.
for a motorcycle game.
That's pretty much it
Goodness,
this week.
look at some of these.
There's
shots.
the Deadpool game is coming out also on Tuesday.
Yeah. Deadpool for PS3.
Yes.
There you go.
Hmm.
No talking in that game. Guys, that's everything that's coming out this week, which means this podcast is over.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. We've come to the end. Sharon, would you like to wrap us up?
Yes, I guess if you are not listening to us live, if you're listening to us later on, be sure to join us when you can live on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for the live videocast of the DPod at twitch.tv/FromTheDPad. You'll find the archives and on YouTube, and you will find our podcast goes up on Mondays at www.fromthedpad.com. You'll also find us on Facebook and Twitter and all those great things. Big thank you to Jeremy and Nick for joining us this week. We're glad to have you both here. If you'd like to tell us where they can find your great content.
You can find my stuff at p1lp2.com, which stands for Player 1 Loves Player 2.
Word.
Excellent.
And you can find most of my stuff either on our Twitch page or on our website at www.fromthedpad.com.
Excellent.
So.
And of course, you can email me and Sharon, Nick at fromthedpad.com, Sharon at fromthedpad.com. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions or comments or concerns, suggestions, or whatever you have to send us. And that's pretty much it. Any parting comments before I wrap us up?
Just don't forget that Jeremy is going to give out some Dota 2 codes, and can you tell us where you're going to do that, Jeremy?
Yes, I will either give you some, so you can put some on the Twitter at the DPad, and I will put some. I'll put some on the Facebook too, probably. So.
All right, so find us there and get in while the getting's good.
Yeah, and if you're watching us right now, if you're not doing anything, stay tuned. Probably in the next hour, the DPad stream will begin once again, and I will probably be playing something just retardedly random in race form. So if you're interested, stick around. That'll probably start in the next 60 minutes for sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be in the chat.
Yeah. I'm going to need all the cheering I could possibly get because it's going to be a hard one.
Go. Yay.
Yeah, so that's it for this episode of the DPod. We will be back next week for episode 44.
Woo!
The double 4. That's like twice as much bad luck in Japan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. Have a good one.